Pornography is very similar to other addictions. It is not just a bad habit, but has compulsive components. Porn addicts often feel as if they have uncontrollable urges and cravings, which are only relinquished by giving in. The reason that cravings and urges appear so strong is because they come from a part of the brain called the limbic system. The limbic system is very powerful, and it is denser than other brain structures, and it evolved before rational thought. This explains why thoughts, urges, and cravings for pornography seem incredibly strong. And it also explains why fighting, suppressing, or avoiding cravings actually feeds them. And this is what 95% of people do. Cravings and urges originate in the primal and survival part of the brain. For some, porn has become such a regular part of their life, just like eating or drinking. If addiction is threatened, they experience a fight or flight response. Most people, when considering quitting their addictive behavior, experience a great deal of fear and panic. Fear of being without your drug, fear of not being able to cope with stress, or the fear of not being able to relieve tension. Those who successfully quit porn addiction stop trying so hard to overcome it and start to manage it in a less worried way. Porn addicts want to quit porn, but they have an extremely hard time dealing with the intense cravings and urges. If you want to know how to stop porn addiction, you need to know about the methods that are proven to diminish cravings and urges for it. You first need to change your perception about your cravings and your urges. You need to stop telling yourself that a craving is bad. You also need to stop thinking that you are a bad person if you have a craving or urge. We often acquire these perceptions because urges and cravings preceded the negative consequences, the guilt and the shame from being addicted to porn. A craving or urge in and of itself is not bad. Those who continually try to quit porn addiction often end up associating themselves with it. Because of this, porn addicts panic. They try to suppress or escape urges. You need to realize that the urge or craving is not you. You are not the message that your brain is sending. You are not the urge. It is important to change your overall perception of this urge. You are not bad for experiencing a craving. It is a faulty message that is sent from the brain and has been continually fed and strengthened. After gaining the correct understanding about these urges and cravings, you need to learn how to properly react to them. When you are experiencing cravings or urges to look at porn, step outside the urge's path and examine them as a curious scientist would. Observe without being judgmental about it. Thinking that an urge is bad is a judgment. You can learn how to quit porn addiction for good by just observing those urges. Observe what biological responses are going on in your body. Do your hands get sweaty? Is your heart rate increasing? Examine any bodily responses without getting caught up in them. By stepping out of the urge's path and examining the urge and its bodily responses, you are changing the relationship you have with that urge and craving. In the past, you probably panicked or tried to avoid or suppress that urge, but this time you are stepping back and separating yourself from it and doing nothing. You're only observing. You need to gain a third-person perspective about that urge. What does it really feel like to have an urge, and how does the body react to this intangible feeling? Urges and cravings for porn are really false messages. Your brain tells you that you need to give in, but you don't need to. You survive fine without it. Remember Pavlov's dog. Pavlov was a Russian physiologist who investigated autonomic reflexes in animals. During one experiment, he discovered the concept of classical conditioning. Pavlov rang the bell when he fed some dogs. What Pavlov discovered is that he could make the dog salivate at the sound of a bell after the repeated pairing of food with the bell. The bell was a cue for the dogs. Similarly, addicts acquire certain triggers. Some of these triggers include negative emotional states and visual stimuli. Your brain has started to treat your drug as a real need, but it isn't. It starts to make your mouth water, but it is not a real mate. It is a computer screen. Research shows that when addicts are actually experiencing these triggers, dopamine will spike in the brain, just as Pavlov's dog was conditioned to the bell and salivated by the sound of it. Pornography overstimulates the brain's reward system, and without porn, the brain screams, "Feed me." But your brain is playing a trick on you. You don't need to feed it. When you become aware of those urges and cravings for porn, you stand back out of the urge's path and observe it, and now you must write it out. Like a wave that builds up, you must observe the urge as it gradually increases, hits crest, and then diminishes. You must observe it like a wave. Imagine it in your mind's eye, that it is a wave that is building up slowly and then hits the shore and diminishes. These waves crash on the shore because there is no solid foundation. They are only feelings and transitory moments that quickly pass. Addressing the desire, not the behavior, is most important.